Anne Bradstreet was the most prominent of early English poets of North America and first writer in England's North American colonies to be published. She is the first Puritan figure in American literature and notable for her large corpus of poetry, as well as personal writings published posthumously.
Anne Bradstreet, née Anne Dudley, born circa 1612, Northampton, Northamptonshire, England, died September 16, 1672, Andover, Massachusetts Bay Colony, U.S., one of the first poets to write English verse in the American colonies. Anne Bradstreet was in most ways quite typically Puritan. Many poems reflect her struggle to accept the adversity of the Puritan colony, contrasting earthly losses with the eternal rewards of the good. In one poem, for instance, she writes of an actual event, when the family's house burned down. Bradstreet is considered a feminist who advanced her feministic ideas through her writings. The prologue speaks about Bradstreet's struggle with being a woman within a Puritan society. As Martin wrote in the Poetry Foundation, certainly, Anne Bradstreet's poetry has continued to receive a positive response for more than 3 centuries, and she has earned her place as one of the most important American women poets. Today, Anne Bradstreet's work inspires female writers and poets to follow their philosophy. Throughout her life, Bradstreet was concerned with the issues of sin and redemption, physical and emotional frailty, death and immortality. Much of her work indicates that she had a difficult time resolving the conflict she experienced between the pleasures of sensory and familial experience and the promises of heaven. Bradstreet's poetics belong to the Elizabethan literary tradition that includes Edmund Spenser and Sir Philip Sidney. She was also strongly influenced by the 16th-century French poet Guillaume du Bartas. Bradstreet had doubts about her religious faith, and she despaired of having children. But finally, in 1634, she gave birth to her first child Samuel. During her despondency, Anne had written her first poem, Upon a Pit of Sickness, 1632. She was frequently ill and anticipated dying, especially in childbirth, but she lived to be 60 years old. Anne seems to have written poetry primarily for herself, her family, and her friends, many of whom were very well educated. Tuberculosis is an infectious disease usually caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis bacteria. Tuberculosis generally affects the lungs, but it can also affect other parts of the body. Most infections show no symptoms, in which case it is known as latent tuberculosis.